Welcome to today's webinar on Connected in the Cloud. This is our construction edition. The last couple of weeks we've been going over what it looks like to work in a cloud project, being connected as different design teams and consultants. And this week we're going to see how the construction crew, the general contractor, and subcontractors are able to connect to the cloud. As I mentioned, my name is Matt Keck, and I do have a background in construction for about 15 years, and then went to school and got an associate's in drafting and design, and have been able to use that in understanding the softwares that are available to us, and looking forward to being able to share with you this experience of being connected in the cloud. So just want to build on the foundation that we kind of been laying the last few weeks. We looked at the architect and how the architect typically would be the one to set up a cloud project, and they're going to set up their cloud models and cloud files, and they're going to begin to design and share stuff out with the other design teams. That would be their consultants, the MEP firms and structural disciplines, and how those guys are able to join the project and link their shared the shared architectural model into their software and explore those design changes and utilize a real data-rich environment that the cloud offers. And now we're going to like I said, take a look at how contractors can now access this information on that same platform. And you think of just a one bucket where all of the information is. We can mark up and submit documentation for review, and we'll be able to request more information from the architects and consultants as needed. And also we're going to take a look at how we can mitigate risk on a job site. So I wanted to really drive home this visualization of what cloud collaboration looks like, because it's real critical in making all of this possible. And so we have shown these slides a few times in the last couple of weeks, and it's 3 slides here that just kind of reiterate this one central source of truth, this one data platform. And of course, most modelers are now using the Revit software for design, and so this software connects in a centralized location on the cloud where everybody can access and link central files, and then that data can then be extended out to other project stakeholders and contractors. And cloud work sharing isn't only Revit. We'll have a data repository there where you can interact with your Revit files, your DWG files, and really a multiplicity of different file types that are available in this cloud environment. Last few weeks we talked about problems and frustrations that we've typically faced over the years with utilizing cloud-based solutions, and so having cloud-based solutions that implement everything really has become a game changer in the project lifecycle. So typically we start with our architect, and then we begin to sync the data, and the MEP firm and structural firms get in there, and then finally the contractor is able to access that information. And some critical components when we talk about what does the contractor need to do is we need to know that we have mobile access, we need to be able to mark up and review, and we need to be able to request information and mitigate risk. So let's start with the mobile access and how that's going to look. We want to be able to log in from a mobile device, and we're using just a cell phone here for this demonstration. And typically as a contractor, we would log in the morning and we'd begin to examine the project documentation. So it's important to have our project files and plans folders set up where we can interact with and identify what all is available to work with. As we begin to take a look at 2D documentation, we can take a look and see what type of interaction and communication has begun to be generated on these files and on these documents. We can zoom in and out and and create markups and issues. And as we work through our project today, we were going to do what we have typically do during the day on paper sets, except now we're going to do it electronically where we can get connected. And one important thing would be being able to interact with a 3D space. And so it's important in our data access to be able to access the 3D models, which we saw the architect put these up 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and now the general contractor has that ability to navigate through those 3D models and then toggle between his 2D construction documents. And this is really important as we work through our day and being able to do takeoffs and measurements. The ability to calibrate your instruments is always going to be an important part of daily routines. And so being able to accurately pull measurements and identify where placement of walls and constructible materials are going to go is really critical. And so having, again, that instant access to the latest information is important. On top of just being able to identify placement, we're also going to want to be able to communicate to the design team when we recognize that there are changes that need to be made and issues that need to be identified, and sometimes collecting information. So marking up documents has historically been a huge part of the construction process, and especially identifying when things need to be made, changes need to be made in the design. So we might have a situation where today we're going to mark up a set of plans, and then we're going to just kind of verify and communicate that markup situation back to the design team. So what we're going to want to do is create a little call out cloud there in a text box and just draw attention to that issue or that markup on the design drawings. And once we've done that, we want to have a way to communicate these identifications back to the team. So what we're going to do now is just go ahead and create an RFI, a request for information. And as the general contractor with the proper permissionings, I can go ahead and drop a push pin in here and begin to fill out a small form that enables me to be able to collect the information that I need from the architectural team. So in this situation, we need to gather some door manufacturer information, and we want to also identify what the fire rating is for the door itself. There are code compliances, as we all know, that we want to make sure that the one that was shipped is the proper one. So we're gonna select who we're gonna send that to and shoot this back to our RFI manager, who is then going to be able to examine, and we'll look at that in a little bit, how he will be able to open that up and push that on to the architect. This prevents really an abundance of information, or I should say an information going to too many places where we all get an overload of information. We can really direct who we're going to push this information to. In addition, we can also create issues. So if we discover that we have an existing condition that is impeding on our ability to do work, we can, with the proper permissioning, we can create these issues and shoot them to the appropriate people for them to be able to address as well. And so what we've identified is that we can't install pipe in a firewall because it's a field wall. So we need to push this back. Apparently something was missed during the design phase, and we're going to go ahead and push this back to our architect and let him know what's going on, and we can add any other details that we want to in order to communicate that. Also, we could snap photographs from our app if we needed to, just to make sure, and we can identify root causes so that perhaps this will be mitigated in future design processes. So once we've done that, we can continue moving on through our day and access other project tools and other project functionality that we may need. And part of that is going to be our risk mitigation. So the ability to create and modify and fill out checklists and take that responsibility, working through checklists to make sure that the risk analysis has been made and that we've identified anything that may have come up. If we need to, we can create issues right into the checklist that we're filling out as we're doing our daily tasks, and then we can shoot that back. And one nice thing that we noticed with the checklist functionality is that we can't just fill something out and it sit. We got to be able to take that responsibility and identify that these tasks have been done, and then collect signatures from supervisors. So if we have warning pop-ups that let us know that we have further steps that we need to do before we go on with our day and approach a job site from that may not be safe, we can again just go back and double verify that we have completed all of the appropriate checklisting. So as we move on here, we then can begin to pass this information on back to the office. And from the office, the project manager is able to access all of the project data, and he will have a different interface and a different way that he can read and collect the information that's come in through the day. And as he goes into our document management portion and our data repository, he can see those plans as they were interacted with out in the field, and recognizes when he opens it up that somebody has requested an RFI and or requested some information and also created an issue. So what we're gonna do is we're just take a look here at the RFI and collect and take a look at the information gathered and add any more additional information that we need to, and then we can push it on to the appropriate discipline for them to answer back with the information that's been requested. Next, we can go take a look at the issue that was created, and we see that for some reason there seems to be a field wall that needed to have a pipe in it. So with the automatic hyperlinking of the section views, we can toggle between a couple of different levels and floor plan and section views in order to kind of get a clearer picture of what's going on in the project with the construction documents that have been provided. Finally, once we've examined that information, if we have documents that need to get pushed on to the owner for his approval, we'll just simply select one of those documents and push that over to them just directly from the project itself, rather than managing downloads and uploads and emails. It can all be housed in the same place. And when the owner logs in, he's able then to select on his the review that's been assigned over to him and start that review. And this enables him to be able to control not only his approval of that review, but also it keeps all of this data right in the project without anything getting lost. So that's essentially the day in the life of a contractor as he works through his project and pushes it back, the information through constructability and risk mitigation. And at the end of the day, everyone goes home. So with that, I will close here. And if there's any questions that have come in, we'll take those at this time. And I'll give it just it's 11:15, so we'll give it just another minute here. And if any questions come in, we'll address that.
Hey, Matt.
Yes. Hey.
We do have a question.
Okay.
It's from Mike Staples asking, what devices can I use to access the data?
That's a good question. We actually can access it from our desktop in the office, from Apple's and Android devices out in the field. So that would include iPhones, iPads, and any type of Android tablet that you might have. We got another one?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
What are some of the benefits of BIM 360 over Procore?
That's a really good question. Ultimately, one of the biggest benefits of using a platform like BIM 360 versus Procore is that you are not a siloed application. You're really plugged into the design teams. You're able to access the data as it's created. You don't have to worry about data getting lost in some other form of FTP site or something where you may need to request for new models as they create the data. You have access to the data. And additionally, we some of the functionality we have with the issues management, it is housed in the project for the duration of the project rather than just becoming an email that could get lost or deleted. All right, well then I guess that we will call it a day, and thanks again everyone for joining, and I hope that everyone has a great afternoon.